Okay, welcome everybody. We've still got a farrier and driver down there, Sir Jeffrey. Lady Fran is filling out all the paperwork. Very cool. Well, thanks everybody for coming. We've got 19 or 20 people online as well. Really excited about the program where we're at today. We've really come out of this in a good position, not where I thought we were 2 months ago. So we've managed to create something that I think will be beneficial to everybody, and it has the potential to give us all the outcomes that we thought we had before. So we'll linger a bit for a few more minutes, hoping that our farrier and his... Oh, here he is. Yep. Where's your other half? Did you just shut the door on her? Oh, no, she's sitting at the front here. It's all right. We're all good. Cool. Righto. Let's get started. Dan, you've not got me as the active window again. There we go. Now we're working. Okay. As the business evolves, so too must Gold Rocks evolve. If we don't keep up with the technology, if we don't keep in front of the waves that are coming down the beach at us, we are going to be in a world of hurt. And this is our tagline: everyone goes forward together. It's one of the things we've been able to do because we have a lot more control and a lot more access from an Australian organisation. We can make sure everybody goes forward together. So welcome everybody, thanks for coming, appreciate your time. I know you're here to find out some information. We'll look forward to giving you some of that information. But remember, we don't represent any of the companies that we affiliate with. We are giving you our experiences only. We don't give financial advice. What we're here to show you today is what we've been able to work out and how we've been able to develop it. So we've got a couple of statements. Ms. Phillips, are you going to go through this? Carolyn's going to run through some of the things that have been occurring.
Hello everyone and welcome. We have had an interesting year, hey, on a number of different fronts. So let's look at where we've been able to bring the gold business and where we can actually be making some money. During the last 9 months, we've all seen challenging times, not only COVID, even just coming to this venue and meeting here has been challenging. Social distancing, hand sanitising, masks. The virtual hug. And we've also been challenged by our gold supplier. So we really felt that they were in a credibility crisis earlier this year. And we want our gold and we want to make money. So this was what we noticed, the compensation plan. There was product that hadn't been delivered. There were promises that hadn't been delivered, and answered support tickets, phone calls. I don't know about you, but if you've ever phoned Germany, pick a number, 10, 12 times, and they just hang up every time. Changing the white paper, and then management and a different direction to what they said, which is where we wanted to go with it. So, if you've been on a journey with us before in different companies, we've been there, we've done that, not happy, not doing it again. So as a result, Gold Rocks has decided the best interest. If you're a member of Gold Rocks, and we certainly value you, you've been with us for a number of years. A lot of you we've known for years actually, and we want to be served by an Australian-based bullion supplier that has long history, that we can go and talk to today. We could drive there tomorrow. They'll be open tomorrow. So that's what we're looking for. Now, it's up to you as to whether you come and do what we're doing, but you're most welcome to. Not everybody has to. You can do your own due diligence. Carrot Bars is actually morphing into another company called Freebay, and you're most welcome, and you can make your own decision as to where, if you go there and do what they're doing. We have decided not to. The wealth principles that we've followed since we've been, well, actually for a long time, because these are well known and well respected, the 4 wealth principles. Pay yourself first. Establish a residual income, limit your tax exposure, and stay ahead of inflation. Really simple. That's what we want. Pay yourself first, establish a residual income. That's the almighty holy grail. Limit your tax exposure, which is legal, and staying ahead of inflation, which is sensible. So these people, all these businesses, BJS, Urban, ComChoice, Skippy, Easy Shopping Cards, and Loveday Vehicle Lubricants, all had a rewards program where when whatever you spent with them, you could get between 2 and 5% back in gold into your account. So these people have been really supportive of all of us at Gold Rocks. And anytime that you need any of those services, we'd love you to support these businesses. Is that your cue? Okay.
Thank you, Carolyn. Okay. Been a whole lot of stuff happening in the world, not only in our world, but in the world in general. Dan has a saying that we both inherited from our army days, that every plan is fantastic until the first round goes downrange. Then everyone throws the plan over their shoulder and just looks after themselves. And that's what we've discovered. So this little video I'm going to show you now is in some ways a bit confronting, because we believed for so long the road we were on before was going to get us to this point. And now we find that that's not true. There is already a registered crypto bank in North America, and it is a full service operation. Listen to the key points though in it about how they handle cash and what they do. Very, very cool information.
All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the content of this video, and we're talking about the banking system. We're talking about a change in the banking system, the first big change we've had in a long time. The banking system as we know it has been in existence for several hundred years, all right? It really started, this kind of central bank model, this central banking model that we have, started at the Bank of England all the way back in 1694. And then we saw the central bank model come to the United States. And then, this banking system, it had its kind of rough start throughout the US, and really it took hold in Federal Reserve Creation Act of 1913. All right, now most people watching this probably just take the banking system for granted. Now, of course, I've talked a lot about it, so if you've been watching these videos, you get a little bit better. But most people just take these, take the banking system for granted, and people really seem to fail to really grasp how it even works, all right? But the foundational structure of these banks, like I said, it's been completely changed. And it happened just this week, as we saw for the first time the biggest change in banking since its inception. And while this shift might seem subtle for some, the ripple effects that are going to happen that will be caused by this tiny shift is going to transform the entire banking system, and for the better. Now, I'm not a fan of the banking system, so I am super happy to see these types of changes happen. Now, I've seen some of the comments from you that talk about, I talk about too much doom and gloom on this channel, and I could see that some of you might think that, all right, because I highlight a problem, particularly in the financial space, But I only highlight the problem so we can understand the problem and the opportunity this solution creates. So as business owners, as investors, we make money by solving the needs and problems of others. So it's important to understand this. And so today, I do have mostly all good news because, as I said, this big shift in banking that we saw is going to be a massive positive change for the country and the world. So let's just dig right into it and let's look at what happened and what we're going to do about it. But of course, first, let's take a little trip back in the time machine. Of course, I'd love to go back into history. We're going to go back to the creation of the current banking system so we can first understand the problems with the banking so we can then better appreciate the changes that have recently been made. Now, when the U.S. was first being founded and the banking system was first being formed, there was hundreds of banks that were popping up all the time. And then these banks, they'd pop up all over the place, and then they would be going bust. So we'd have booms and busts. Banks would pop up and go bankrupt, pop up and go bankrupt over and over and over again. And it was happening all the time. And the reason why these banks would go bust is because they would take the money and then they would loan it back out. They'd loan out depositors' money. Then oftentimes these loans were bad. The bank didn't have the money to give back to the depositors. So when the depositors came back to get their money, all of a sudden the bank didn't have the funds and they would go bust. They would go bankrupt. Of course, this left the depositors broke. So it wasn't a very good situation. Now, to understand this whole period in banking was about 100 years that we saw before the creation of the Federal Reserve. It's super, super interesting, at least for me, because I'm a history nerd. But I highly recommend that you read a book called The Mystery of Banking by Murray Rothbard. And as a free gift, I'm going to give you a link to download a free PDF copy of the book, and it's in the description of this video, so you can download a free copy of that book and read it. I highly recommend it. Anyway, it's a great book. Now, the Federal Reserve was created in 1913 partly to solve the problem of these banks starting and going bust all the time. So they were supposed to backstop the banks so they wouldn't go bust. So if they ran out of money, the Fed could give them money. Now, this way the depositors didn't lose their money. And then eventually in 1933, then we saw FDIC insurance pop up, which then insured the banking deposits for the customers. Now, before you start lighting up the comments, because I can already hear your keyboard clacking away, just let me say, yes, I have read the book, The Creature from Jekyll Island. I have read the book. And of course, I understand what the Fed is really doing. I mean, if you're new to this channel, I get it. But if you scroll through the feed of videos, you're going to see I have like 100 videos talking about the nefarious, the dangerous actions, policies of the central bank. But that's not the purpose of this video. It's not what I'm talking about. So now with the Federal Reserve backstopping the banks, the Fed was now able to print basically an unlimited amount of money. And of course, when they increase the money supply, it decreases your purchasing power. This is why, for example, you think like the price of houses goes up, right? Houses got so much more expensive, but it's not that houses got more expensive. It's just that the value of the dollar went down. And so it takes more dollars to buy that house today. Now, the dollar's lost over 95% of its purchasing power just since the Fed came to power. And it's this endless debasement of the currency that's been happening, and it's theft. By printing money, they're stealing your value. They're stealing your purchasing power, which is why I'm such a huge proponent of Bitcoin, because finally we have a digital scarce asset that's decentralized. So because it's decentralized, it's not controlled by anybody. And because it's not controlled by anybody, it can't be manipulated by anybody. Now, over the last 11 years, it's grown its user base, it's grown its security, it's grown its value. It's actually been the best performing asset over the last 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, all the way down to last year. Now, I know based off the comments I get on videos whenever I mention Bitcoin, the number one objection is, what if the government bans Bitcoin? What if the government bans it? I hear it all the time. Well, today we have some positive changes to all those problems and questions. So what's the big news? Let's get to it. So U.S. banking system just gave its first banking license and charter to a cryptocurrency exchange. Now I'm talking about Kraken, all right? And this is really big news because one, it shows the idea of the U.S. shutting Bitcoin down has been pretty much diminished, right? Two, it fixes the number one flaw with banks, which is this fractional reserve banking system where you lose your money. And three, there's several other things that really come up because of this, and I want to move through them pretty quickly. So let's just go ahead and just jump right in so you can see how big this is. So first, Kraken is going to be a full bank. They're going to be a bank, and they're going to give you all the same services that you would expect for both your personal and your business accounts. Now, this includes, obviously holding your money, storing your dollars, and your crypto assets, as as well as handling all your payments in and out, wire transfers, things like that, providing debit cards that can pull from your dollars or your crypto accounts, and then even get into securities, commodities, things like that. So a full service bank, just like Bank of America, Wells Fargo, whatever, but not just for dollars. They're going to give you the same services for cryptocurrencies as well. Store it, protect it, payments, debit cards, wire transfers, the whole thing seamlessly, choosing between dollars or Bitcoin or whatever crypto that you want. It's going to be pretty amazing. Now, this is a huge positive shift. The big change is that Kraken is required to hold 100% reserves on cash and digital assets. So this means no rehypothecation. Rehypothecation is basically when they take your asset and they loan it back out. Somebody else takes that asset and they loan it back out. They take it, they loan it back out over and over and over again.
Okay, do we all remember the information we were given some time back about our previous affiliate company being the first regulated crypto bank in the world? Well, guess what? They're not. Kraken is in Wyoming. I've been through the town fairly rapidly where they're based. It's already there. The great thing about having it out there as a crypto bank that will handle cash as well is we now have the ability to use that bank. It will be a full service bank. And you heard him talk about having debit cards linked to your digital crypto and your cash. So there's lots of different ways we can take advantage of that. But here's where we're going to get into what we're doing with the gold. The fact that that bank exists, and he talked about Bitcoin, is a key to what we're doing collectively here today. We can show you how that all ties together. Now, this is a vault. Hands up if you got one. Yep, they're a great thing. That one there holds 30 kilos of gold, potentially. Now, it doesn't, because that one there is mine. How much do you reckon these big ones at the bottom hold? A lot. A lot. Gold is decidedly heavy. And you will find that this vault has available, those little ones at the top, they hold 10 kilos. But the reason I have that size is you can put A4 documents in there without folding them up. So I can put birth certificates and all that sort of stuff in that drawer without having to fold it up. That facility, that room, is in the facility where we're going to get our gold from. So not only is it our source of bullion, it is the place where the vaults are. Now, there's a problem that they're a bit worried about. To get into that room, you go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 locked doors. 2 of those, the first one you go through is a locked door to the street. Then you get inside, after you've been approved, another locked room where you are looked at on video to see that the person standing in that room matches what the scanner just said you were. Then you get into the foyer where you can look at all the bulletproof glass. Then you've got to have facial recognition and a PIN to get into the next locked room where you are visually identified by a human that you match who's supposed to be in that room. And if you don't get out. Then you get out of that room into the foyer for this room. And then you have to be escorted into that room because each one of these drawers has 2 keys. And it was pretty funny the first time I went to add some stuff to my drawer, I couldn't remember what the number was. He said, "Which one of these is yours?" I went, "I don't know. I've got the key. You better go and look me up." So you're escorted in and they put in a key, they put in a master key, they unlock that, they leave the room. Then you can put your key in and open your drawer. This line here has a shelf that just pulls out, so you can put the drawer down on it and open it. And whilst it is monitored by video, when you stand in front of the drawer, the camera can't see what's in the box. So you can put whatever you like in there. But that's a very cool facility. Now, can you imagine the chaos that would occur if 25 of us turned up there for a look-see? They'd call the police. It's impossible to get into. But anyway, so welcome to an Australian-based gold program. AU for you. Gold for you. It's very cool. The facility that I was just showing you has a 60-year history. It has been a Commonwealth Bank vault for a long time. They bought the building from the Commonwealth Bank and added a whole bunch more bulletproof glass, steel in the walls, blast walls, all sorts of things. So it's been there for 60 years. The metal supplier has a 40-year history. And it's insured for full replacement value. So if a tidal wave comes, and it'd be a big one to get up on that bluff at Redcliffe, if a tidal wave came and swept it all away, you have full replacement value insurance. So if you bought gold this year and in 5 years' time it gets swept away, you get the replacement gold at the value on the day, not when you bought it. They're SMSF compliant, so all of their deposits are audited. So you can have your SMS, your self-managed super fund, buy metal if that's what you want to do. It is fully compliant. And they have a buyback price. Now, it was one of the issues we had with our previous company. When you wanted to sell them back the gold, it was about 42% less than what you paid for it. This isn't. So when you actually go in there, you have two options to withdraw. You can either sell them back the gold or silver or whatever you're holding, and they will pay the cash into a bank account of your choosing, provided it's something that looks like you might have some control over or some connection with, and it's done. You don't have to go and pick it up. You don't have to go and find somebody. You don't have to negotiate a price. It's done in-house. They will buy it instantly at whatever the market price is on the day. So, live. Yep. Every 15 minutes their pricing changes. They will give us a 15-minute locked window for a price, whereas in fact it actually changes every 2 minutes. But if they quote me a price, they will hold that price for 15 minutes. So, gold and silver. You can do both, and there's reasons to do both. Dan talks to me all the time about the difference, the gap between gold and silver, how historically it's completely out of whack. And at some point, it will come back together. At some point. That might be next month, it might be in 50 years' time, I don't know. But it will come back into the, I think it's 7 to 12 factor. So at the moment it's down around 70. It's a long way out of whack. Now, why do you think we are going to have this where you buy the bullion? Anyone got any ideas? The horns of the trilemma. Dan said to me, what the hell sort of breed of cow is that? Well, when you have two issues, you have a dilemma. When you have three issues, you have a trilemma. So the trilemma is the government's ability to control currency and how they do it. So they can't generally do all three at the same time, whilst actually at the moment the governments are trying to do that. The first one is they want to set fixed exchange rates. Now that doesn't come into play until you get into hyperinflation, or they're trying to manipulate how much true money like gold or silver that you're moving in and out of the country. Then they control it. If anyone's in our experience with dealing with overseas, buying bullion or Bitcoin, that's what the banks do. Allowing capital to move freely. Well, they're sort of doing that at the moment, but they can't control all three things. And the third one is set interest rates and print money. Did someone say print money? Yes, this is actually in the textbook of what governments do. They control the monetary policy. And it's really been an eye-opener for me, having got involved in the gold business, to investigate what it is that they're doing. And if you've understood anything about history, and I'm not talking ancient history, go back 2 years and look at Lebanon and Venezuela. Hyperinflation. Really serious hyperinflation. Go back to 1939 in Germany. Really serious hyperinflation. United States, gold confiscation in 1933. Roosevelt, I believe. Was it Roosevelt? Yes, that would be about right. They decided that the government was in a bad way, so they would just send out an executive order. I forget the number off the top of my head that he signed. You're not allowed to have gold anymore unless it's collectible or the other bit. Australia, 1959, same deal. That regulation was in effect until 1974. Great Britain, 1966. There are two classes of gold and silver that were not covered by any of those bans. Anyone got any ideas? Jewellery and collectibles. Yep. So they were imposed by Western governments. We're not talking about the dictatorships. They arose out of an economic crisis, so every government that's done this has done it out of desperation. They didn't have any other options. They lasted for a long time. The shortest one of those three was 13 years. 13 years. That's a pretty serious monetary intervention. And they completely forbade the hoarding of bullion. Now, there were lots of people in America that went into arguing the toss over what is hoarding and what is bullion. But the two things that always stood out was collectibles, you've got to be able to prove it, and jewellery. Jewellery. Hence, on the website, we're all going to get a little hammer for Christmas. So if anyone ever asks you, you're just about to hammer out your gold and make it into a necklace. Because we are not going to be buying bullion, we're going to be buying the stuff that makes jewellery. They've never, ever, in any country, seized jewellery. The Indian government's tried it a number of times, failed every time. Because Indian communities have generational gold. They have gold chains, gold jewellery that are handed down generation after generation. And the government has done its best a number of times to intersect and get involved in that market. It has failed every single time. In fact, I read this morning when I was putting some of these slides together, I read a paper by a guy who was hired by the Indian government to see why they couldn't intersect the gold and silver that was being exported and imported out of India. And in one of the paragraphs he says, well, that's because Indians are by their very nature going to smuggle it anyway. Doesn't matter what you do, you're never going to intersect the smugglers. Unless you put a hard border and frisk everybody and search every bag that they take out, you cannot stop it. And they gave up. So the plan is really simple and transparent. Customers can join for free. They don't get a discount. Wait for it. Let's look at the pricing. Perth Mint, $100.80. This was Friday. $100.80 for a gram of gold from Perth Mint. Now, previously, in our previous supplier, that was $129.81. And then if you wanted it delivered, it was 39 euros. And then when it got here, you had to pay $88 to get it through customs. This is what our price is going to be based on the same time, did them all at the same time, $106.60. That's what a customer pays for it. A retail customer, okay? That's a good deal, because while ever it stays in the vault in our process, it's free storage and free insurance. Cost free. Now, what about affiliates? Starter pack's $300. You get $90 of gold in that $300. How much gold did we get from our 180 euro pack? Was that 0.1? 0.1 of a gram. 0.2 of a gram. There you go. So that's going to be about 0.9, 0.89, something like that of a gram of gold in the pack. Pricing. Again, Perth Mint, that's our baseline. Former supplier, $125.81. That's what we pay. Free storage, free insurance is included in that price. Does anyone think that's not a good deal? It's a massive improvement on where we were before. And how much does it cost to get that gold delivered to your door? $25 and it takes 48 hours. Up to 5 kilos. But I suspect if you're going to get 5 kilos shipped, you might want to come pick it up in your handbag. Pretty exciting picking up that much gold. So that's, interestingly, is going to be our market share. All of a sudden, we've actually got a product that has a go-forward position. It's a good price. Starter pack, $300, affiliate commission, 1032. We're all familiar with that. Works exactly the same. Gold purchases in the uni level. So I register Dan. Dan is going to go away and buy gold at $103.43 per gram. By the way, you don't have to buy it by the gram. We have a process for it. How much commission did we get from our last supplier when someone bought gold? Zero. Absolutely nothing. We did get units in the dual team system that they had, which was okay. 2%, 1% and 0.5% down 3 levels. So that makes it really competitive with Perth Mint, doesn't it? Really competitive. And if you store it at Perth Mint, you pay up to 2% a year storage. We've never had that before. We've never had commission on the gold. In the binary, it will have a binary component. 50 points left, 50 or right, doesn't matter which way you go. 50.25 is a $40 payment. Now here's the thing, that doesn't matter if it's gold or silver. It's every product will have a point value based on the dollars. So it absolutely doesn't matter. Now when you add that to the fact that you're getting commission on the gold, it's better than we had before. But it's capped at $75,000 a week. Is anyone in the room going to complain about that? I reckon that even paying for Dan McCloskey's rum bill, I can squeak by at 75 grand a week. The problem will come in when I've got to buy Mr. Duck a bottle of Grange. That could be a problem. Because he's a bit persnickety, he'll want one of the real old ones. We have a lifestyle bonus. Remember in the other one we had a long-term incentive. The one-star one, minimum of 3 legs doing 1,000 points, it's $500. Think about that, $500. So it's 3,000 points in total, you get a $500 payment. On top of the commissions, on top of the binary, this is a separate commission. 2-star, 2,000 points per leg, up to 4 legs. You need 8,000 points, it's $1,000. 3-star, 3,500. They're starting to get to be interesting numbers. The next one, $9,000. We're getting anyone's attention yet. 5-star, 35,000. Now you will have the option that instead of accepting the money, you can do it multiple different ways. Because we may be wanting to minimise our exposure to some government organisations. Number 6, $70,000. That's kind of a sizable sum of money. Number 7, 120, and number 8, $700,000. Is anyone going to complain about that? Now this is the same as the old system, as in these points don't go away. They don't go back to 0 when you get paid. They stay there and continue to accrue. So once you start, it just continues to accrue over time. You can accept it as gold, silver, Bitcoin or cash, or you can take the prize that goes with it to that value. They're very cool options. And this one is going to be very keen to be used, I suspect, when Mr. McCloskey talks to you about what he's doing. So this has been a process that we've been working on for, I suppose we started 2 months ago, trying to work out how to get an outcome out of the hand of cards that we had. We weren't being dealt a fair hand. Now, I'm not about to say that the company we were with before is about to go broke tomorrow or anything like that, but I can tell you there is a number of legal actions coming at them now. And if you know any history of where we've been before, we just won a lawsuit against the previous company in Austria last week. Took 4 years. So now that they've been summoned to court to get the judgment, magically the 2 lawyers who were representing that company, all of a sudden no one there knows who they are. They can't be served. They don't know where they are. I suspect they're in Monaco in someone's hut. So all of these things will be given as an option. From the gold or the silver. When we went and started negotiating, they have, the company we're getting the medals from have their own affiliate program. They've had it for 10 years. They have 3, count them, 1, 2, 3 affiliates in 10 years. Nobody had thought about doing what we're doing. So effectively what their program became was, if you are big enough to buy gold or silver or platinum or any of those metals in a volume that puts you outside of the norm, you could become an affiliate. If you got outside of that, the next idea was to be a bullion dealer. Well, I don't think any of us have really got a penchant to being a bullion dealer, but what we've done is take the money that they said we could have as an affiliate and split it up like that. And when you do the maths on how it works out, it all adds up. we're going to stick with the same program. We're going to suggest that people buy a gram of gold, or does anyone know what AG stands for? Silver. Silver's AG, AU is gold. Hence, AU for you. Teach people how to do that. It's a really simple process. And now we don't have to be dealing with the price issue that we've struggled with for years, some of us. Now all of a sudden we've got a price that is a smoking good price given what you get with it. So what's happening in the world? We joke about things that happen in the army. Have you been keeping a close eye on what's happening in the South China Sea? And on Wednesday, the Indian and Chinese armies started firing warning shots at each other in Nepal. Now that's getting just a bit too close to people getting shot. I don't think it'll be very long. Oh, and by the way, the Indians have just amassed an entire military division on that border. And what's happening in Taiwan? Has anyone paid any attention to that? Well, China would love to take it over, except Taiwan has some fairly interesting allies, one of which is the USA. They've just shipped 180 M1 Abrams tanks and several hundred Stinger shoulder-fired missiles to Taiwan. Now, the Chinese are not best pleased by this action, of course. So anything can happen there in a moment's notice. We've got naval vessels in the South China Sea. I suspect if our aircraft go there, they'll go into Butterworth in Malaysia because they're not equipped to fly off carriers. Who knows what's going to happen. But I can tell you if the shooting starts, you'll see gold and silver prices literally go through the roof instantly because everybody runs into a safe haven when stuff like that happens. Now this is Kitco News. I want you to pay particular attention about what this guy says, what's going to happen with gold.
What will be the best performing asset for the remainder of the year? We have a very special guest here to talk about this today and much more. But before we speak to our expert, I want to ask the viewers first, what do you think will be the best performing asset? The S&P 500, the GDX, silver, gold, or Bitcoin? If you're watching this on YouTube, write your responses in the comments down below, and we'll address this when we speak to Florian Grumis, Managing Director of Midas Touch Consulting. I'm going to ask you the exact same question that I just asked the viewers in a few minutes. But first, let's start with a macro update. You and I spoke before a couple of times, and you like to talk about the crack-up boom, which is an economic theory relating to inflation. Tell us how that affects your investment thesis.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me again, David. Much appreciated. Well, the crack-up boom is basically a concept that was phrased by Ludwig von Mises, the leading father of the famous Austrian School of Economics. And he came up with that theory more than 100 years ago, right before the German hyperinflation started. And it basically says that, yeah, the crack-up boom is an economic crisis that involves a recession in the real economy and at the same time a collapse of the monetary system. And that is because there's continual credit expansion by the central banks, and therefore resulting as unsustainable rapid price increases. So that's actually the theory, and that's what we've seen in 1920 to 1923 in Germany. We've seen it in Zimbabwe. We've also seen it in Argentina. And what, if you look around now on the planet, you can see now is every central bank in the world is basically printing like crazy, creating money out of thin air, expanding their balance sheets to somehow keep the economy up and running.
Okay. Well, what's different this time is that we're not seeing hyperinflation like Germany during the time of the Weimar Republic, and we're not seeing Zimbabwe. I want to show the viewers this chart, velocity of M2 money supply. It's at the lowest since 1960. historic levels of low. How does this affect your outlook on inflation? Why do you think money velocity is so low right now?
Well, it is because of the lockdown, right? I mean, most of the businesses have been affected by the corona lockdown. Many restaurants never opened up again. Many airlines basically have just 25% of their business that they used to have. Many hotels don't see a lot of occupancy anyway. And the business in many parts of the world, in many countries, in many sectors, is still slow and only slowly recovering. So that is the main reason why we haven't seen that. But let me just get this clear. I mean, the German hyperinflation didn't start it from the first day. That was a process. And it is not a linear process, but it was slow in the beginning and actually, interestingly enough, there are quite some similarities because after the First World War in Germany, many businesses were basically not functioning at all. Either they were destroyed or they were closed. And in Germany, there was kind of a strike against the reparation payments to France. And at the same time, the central bank started to expand the balance sheet and printed money. So we have a rather similar setup today in the world where due to the lockdown, lots of businesses have been shut down. Many things have been quarantined. So the thing in Germany back then in the Weimar Republic, the real hyperinflation set in 2.5 years after the initial start of this balance sheet expansion. So this is the process and it takes time. And what you can see now already in certain parts of the financial markets, especially precious metals and also the big tech stocks, they went bananas over the last few months. Many of those stocks are up triple-digit numbers. And at the same time, the real economy is still not in a good shape and only very slowly recovering. And if they come up again with lockdowns, who knows how much longer this will extend. But I believe that inflation will come. Actually, inflation comes from a Latin word, inflare, which means blowing up the money, the balance sheet. So that's actually the description for it. And what you then see in the grocery store is just the effects of it.
Okay, so the low money velocity is not affecting your outlook on inflation. It's still going to happen, is what you're saying.
Exactly. And I see, for example, if I look at, I just today looked at the agricultural prices for soybeans and corn. You can see they are up 10-15% since end of June. So this will affect grocery prices, and this will affect most of the people.
So the formula for money velocity is the gross domestic product over the money supply. So usually that's correlated with inflation. So which variable do you think will see the biggest move? Do you think GDP will recover faster, or do you think that the money supply will eventually come back down, or do you think that's not going to happen at all?
No, the money supply cannot come down because if they stop expanding the balance sheet, we will have civil war and crazy things happening immediately. So there's really enough people who lost their job and who are completely depending on state programs. So if they stop printing money and the stock market comes down too, it's over. I mean, we're going to see civil war everywhere in the world. So I don't think that we do this at all.
When you talk about hyperinflation, are you referring to inflation of asset prices or inflation of consumer prices?
I'm talking about inflation of everything in the end of the day, right? Because you can see it, what we've seen now since the financial crisis in 2008, what we've seen is an inflation in asset prices. So real estate went up, most of the stocks went up, collectibles went up, some precious metals obviously went up, Bitcoin went up, and that will continue. And what you really have to understand is in the end of the day, it's just a question of perception. The more and more people listening to Kitco becoming aware that there is something wrong with this constant expanding of the balance sheet, the more people will wake up and run and buy precious metals. And then that will affect more and more people again, because at some point people will realize, hey, I get less with my money. I'm working hard for these $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 a month. But whenever I go to the grocery store, I get less. Everything gets more expensive. I don't get a paycheck rise. Something's wrong here, you know? And the normal people, that's the one who are suffering the most. And so I think it's a process in a shift in awareness and the perception of it. And it takes time. And that's what happened in Germany until finally people really started losing the confidence in the paper money back then. And it is think the same happening nowadays. And you've seen the boom in precious metals happened for a reason over the last 6 months. And this is going to continue overall.
Well, I was reading stories of hyperinflation in Germany. How bad could it get? Could it be really as bad as what happened then? Because, you know, the stories were like you would walk into a restaurant, you would pay the bill first because by the end of your meal, the prices of all the menu items would have gone up 2-3 times. So you pay your bill first before you eat. You know, could we see that kind of thing happen? Would it be that bad?
It could very likely happen, not today and not tomorrow, and probably not within the next few weeks or months, but maybe in 2 years.
But the central bank is here to stop this from happening, right? That's their mandate. For most central banks, their mandate is to control inflation and prevent something like this from happening. What are the tools that they will use? What can we see monetary policy changes that will prevent this from happening?
They will try to use capital controls and those kind of things. I don't think that they can prohibit gold again, but they will certainly try things. But at the same time, they need to continue print money because otherwise the whole system, the whole economy will break down immediately. Look, Madame Lagarde here in the Eurozone, she's printing every week 10 to 30 billion euros every week. And they cannot stop anymore because if they stop, everything breaks down. And look, just what we've seen a few days ago in the tech stocks. Tesla finally pulling back and Apple pulling back a little, and everybody's freaking out already. And this is affecting immediately all the other asset classes. And if they stop printing, you're going to see, I mean, it's going to be a disaster. So it's impossible. It will not happen.
So we promised the viewers that you would answer the question that I asked them at the beginning of the interview. What do you think will outperform? Let's talk about individual asset classes now. Let's start with risk assets. The S&P 500 index. Data came in this week with disappointing results. Consumer spending was down. A lot of unemployment benefits for Americans were taken away. We've seen the Federal Reserve issue an announcement that was really a non-event. How does all this play out in your thesis about stocks?
I mean, I'm not a big fan of stocks because I'm a believer in the Dow Jones gold ratio. So I prefer to focus more on gold and precious metals. But generally, I don't have a problem in good stocks, and I also like the big US tech stocks, obviously. I think overall will move up higher in the next few years. And a pullback like we've seen over the last few days, it's probably a buying opportunity already. Even though Tesla seems to be very overvalued from many perspectives, I think stocks like Tesla, Apple, Amazon, they all will march higher over the next few months and years because they print so much. Okay,
so you think it's because of monetary stimulus that's going to be driving stocks higher. It's not because the companies themselves are performing well?
No, it doesn't matter anymore.
Okay, Florian, so we've talked about your crack-up boom theory, and we've talked about your thesis about hyperinflation. How does this affect your gold outlook? You and I spoke a couple months ago, and you blew up the internet with your $9,000 gold price forecast, but that's not until many years later, right? That's not until, that's not happening right away. So there's talk of $3,000 gold, there's talk of $4,000 gold. Is that going to happen right away, you think?
I mean, let me say like this. I was a little bit surprised how strong gold behaved in July and August. I thought the $1,900 would be a little bit more of a resistance, but it is what it is. It was a great rally, and now we are pulling back a little bit, consolidating. I guess latest in the next year we're going to see new all-time highs. If gold takes out 2,075, we probably run quickly towards 2,500. From there, it's not far to 3,000. That's likely possible in the next year, maybe. And then in 2-3 years, yes, $3,000-$4,000 should be easily possible. And if you consider the exponential developments in a cracker boom and in a hyperinflation, this thing could really move within 3 to 5 years towards 5,000 and maybe even 9,000 or 10,000. And again, the more they print, we could meet and see gold and the Dow Jones at 100,000 at some point.
You've argued that we could see a major correction in gold prices in the short term before we see higher prices. Why haven't we seen that major correction yet?
Well, we have seen a pullback of $200, a little bit more. It went down from 2,075 down to 1,861 in early August. And since then, we're basically in a correction consolidation. It's still not really clear what will come out of this. So far, you can make the argument that gold is consolidating on a high level, looking for a base and maybe starts moving again. At the same time, I feel, or I mean, I just can tell you that out of my little 20-year experience in the gold market, usually after such strong rallies, gold needed at least 6 months, maybe 9 to 10 months to basically digest that kind of move. And I wouldn't be surprised to see something similar over the next few months. I personally believe towards the end of the year, maybe in December, we will get a really good opportunity again. I'm a bit cautious also when it comes to the US elections, simply because I believe we will see a lot of volatility and a lot of hiccups and crazy movements. And I prefer to kind of like not be 100% invested in front of such a big event.
Gold or silver, which do you like better? Which do you think will win by the end of the year?
Silver had a beautiful run, and I think it's still ahead of gold this year, and I think that will continue. I don't think that the metals are ready already to move substantially higher again. I think we're going to see, at least until the US election, maybe typically until mid of December, we might see some consolidation and a little bit more of a correction. But silver is certainly outperforming gold this year.
Did you notice the bit where he talked about $100,000 gold if they keep printing money? And in reality, that's the only thing that determines the price. It's how much money is in the market and what's the scarcity of the product. It's the same as employing a farrier to go and shoe a horse. If there's only one in the country, what do you think he's going to charge? A lot. It's the same in every market. What we're seeing happen today in the world is unprecedented. We've seen hyperinflation before in individual countries. We've seen enormous growth in economies to the point where it burst in individual countries like Zimbabwe and Venezuela, the Weimar Republic in Germany, all those sorts of things. Never before in history have we had a global situation like this. And while some people will blame the COVID crisis, the Chinese originated viral infectious disease number 19, it really is at the end of the road of where we were at economically anyway. Yes, that's been a trigger. Yes, that's made some things happen. But the end of the road with our financial system, the end of the central bank system, is probably not far away completely. Do I know that for a fact? No, I'm just observant. Look around and see what's happening. Do some reading. So that's what he's talking about. The dollar will, that's a carton of beer, isn't it, in a meeting? Oh, Chardonnay, righto. It was that 12 bottles in the carton of Chardonnay. Anyway. So this slide is the one that he was talking about. While ever central banks keep printing money, that is going to happen. The buying power of the money is going to go down. It must. It is impossible to maintain its buying power. There's nothing to prevent it going to zero at this point when they're printing money like that. And he talked, that guy, because he's German or Austrian, talked about the European Union printing billions a week and just pumping it out into the economies of Europe. Now, before I hand over to my offsider here for the rest of the digital aspect of today, a couple of other news wires came to my attention during the week. One of them is the European Union is looking at outlawing stable coins, digital coins, making them illegal. Now, a few years ago, we were involved with a company who had their headquarters in Austria. Then they moved their international offices to Switzerland, and I thought, yeah, that's probably a good move, stable environment, blah-de-blah-de-blah, good regulations for international trade. Then they moved them from Switzerland to London. Why would you do that? Well, I found out months later it was because the Swiss government made them illegal in Switzerland. They moved. Why do you think a company, brand new company that has moved into Switzerland, has moved its digital program to London? There's a whole lot of regulations being discussed. No one's confident that the ban will be enforced. No one's confident that it won't be. But it didn't make sense to me that they were moving the gold from where it was in Europe into London. A lot more oversight, a lot more regulations, a lot higher taxes. Why would you do that? Well, it's because of all this information going on in the background in the European environment. Now, I listened to the German doctor, Professor Zinkelmann, or whatever his name was, talk about how they came up with the idea of the V999 stablecoin. And yes, I still think it's a stellar idea to have a digital token that is backed 100% by gold. Have a guess what we can do with our current gold supplier. Exactly that. When I asked him how much gold he could put on the table if I came in with the biggest order in their history, thinking he would say a couple 100 kilos, he said, somewhere between 4 and 6 tons. Okay, we won't run out of gold then. That's, yeah, you need a big ute to pick that up. So because they have the gold in-house, if we were to go down that road, we could initialize a digital token for it. Now, I can talk for hours about why that's a good idea or a bad idea, but it's complicated. So that will be on the back burner until we know exactly what's happening in the world with regulations, because I don't know how to create the blockchain. I understand how it works. I understand what we're trying to achieve, but I'm not that sort of programmer. And I'm looking about the room, I'd say there's nobody here that does either. So we would have to find a programmer that could cope with the blockchain tokenization to do it. But we have that capability today. We have the option to do that. So what we're going to try and do is build the gold business in its current form, which we are doing. It's stable, it's cheap, and it's got a great outcome. The digital side of it, what we set out to do with this program was give each one of us that have assets in the Karatbars system the ability to use those assets and make an income with it. And that's what we've achieved. We've now got that, all those boxes ticked. So I think my next slide introduces Mr. McCloskey, but don't panic, Jonesy, because we got gold. Now we've got Australian gold in an Australian system. This is what the prices are doing. You see they talked about in the system, in that video we just watched, that there's been a bit of a pullback. Everyone expected it to be a lot worse because gold went up so high, and silver, but it actually hasn't gone much at all because it's still 21.48% for the year. Not too many bankers that can find that for you. So just watch it. It's, yeah, at some point, it is going to literally skyrocket as we hit higher and higher inflation levels. Real physical gold and silver. Question? Probably next week, if the Indian friends of mine that do the programming get all their links to work. We look forward to helping you earn your future with gold, silver, and digital assets. Previously, we had a digital arm. It was called Karatbit. It's still there. All our assets are still there. But we are looking for a way to collateralize it and turn it into money. And not just a one-time transaction to get the money out, actually make an income with it. Here is our official, supposed...
Right then, are we excited? You are? Cool. Cool. My next door neighbours are excited. For the last 6 weeks, I've been screaming at him. I won't tell you what I was screaming at him. Suffice it, I was not a happy camper. He wouldn't let me pull the pin until we had an out. And it's surprising in life that sometimes you can't see the bloody trees for the forest, or the forest for the trees. There was a whole pile of stuff that was literally at our feet, and we just couldn't join the dots. And then all of a sudden, through sheer frustration and association, everything started to fall into together. And all we simply did was help a few more dots join, and hey presto, my neighbours are all hanging over the fence saying, thank Christ for that. All right, now, as my Derek was saying, wrong one. We previously had, here we go. This is what we're going to be looking at. There's another one that literally fell into our lap by a few good people that we know and have associations, Mirror Trading International, or more commonly known as MTI. They're a Bitcoin trading company. They're working out of South Africa. They have been trading for approximately 16 months, so they're a very young company. Their average return is about 10% per month. So they're a very successful young company. To set up costs you nothing. To join costs you nothing. Our previous person was leading us down, a previous supplier was leading us down a path where just the setup alone was going to cost you 4,600 euros for the same supply. Education, everything's the same. Not a bad deal, huh? So this is going to cost you nothing. Compensation plan. The members get 40%. 40% of what? When you join as a member, you buy Bitcoin. The Bitcoin is pooled. That pool goes out and trades. They make 10%. Of that 10%, 40% goes back to the members. So us. So you put your money in, depending on what your percentage is of the total float, that's what you get paid back. Seems fair to me. 20% goes into a binary system. It's paid out on your, it's calculated. It's very similar to the 25-50 rule, but they clarified that it is on your weakest leg. That's pretty much the same old, same old. They have two leadership levels, P1 and P2. I'm going to go through these a little bit more detail later so I don't get too, but there's 5% put aside for that, 2.5 for one, 2.5 for the other. The P1 level, I can't find it actually written down, but I think that maxes out at 8. The P2 level is indefinite. 25% goes to the traders. I'm assuming that that's the payment for where they place their orders. They have 3. The total group now is, the total fund has got to such a size that it is reasonably large. So what they've done is they've split the fund up into 3 different trading groups to minimise risk. So they pay for the traders, and then 10% goes to MTI. MTI does not get paid if they don't make money. I'll say that again, slower. They don't make a cent until we make money. Now I'm pretty cool with that. You know, you want me to put money with you, mate? Show me what you got to risk. They're going to do all the hard yards, then we get paid. And they get paid as long as when we get paid. That had my undivided attention. They also pay, now, if you calculate all that up, there's 100%, and there's also a 10% referral bonus. So that means the rest of them are paid out weekly. This is a one-off type buy, so when you refer somebody, you get 10% of what they join at. So that's why there's if you add it up, there's 110%. I didn't get it fanciful with my calculator, but that's how it works out. Okay, how do you become a member? You join in Bitcoin. You have to have 200, and you don't have to have 200. You can join at lesser levels. I'm going to use, it's a magical number through the entire system that triggers a whole heap of other things. So I'm going to use that as a standard throughout the rest of the demonstration. So you join with 200, it has to be a minimum of $200 US dollars worth of Bitcoin. And hey presto, that entitles you to go into the trading share. So if you did nothing else, you're going to earn roughly 4%. Roughly speaking, you're going to earn 4%. That's if you did nothing else. If you want to go to binary, you introduce one person, same as you, 200. 4% per month, what did I say? Right. Yeah, okay. The second person, so you've formed yourself one, there's the focus of your binary is 1 plus 2. Each joining, or everyone joined at the same volume of money of $200 US. You receive 10% commission, so you're going to get $40 back if you're the sponsor, 20 from either one. You're going to go into the share of the binary commission, so on one of those legs, it's going to be the same pretty much, depending on if one joined at a higher level than the other. One put in 300, not 200. But on the weakest leg, you're going to get 20% back on that, which is not too bad. P1, how do you become P1? Well, you've already got your left and right leg. What you do is teach R2 to do the same. Find 2 people and join them up, all with 200. Now you receive 1 share for R2, goes into a pool of 2.5%. When I did these calculations, there was 8,800 people with shares going into that pool. So as the pool grows, more money goes into that pool. The more successful they trade, the more money goes into that pool. So it's not a bad little learner. Having said that, there's, from my understanding of it, I'm not 100% accurate on it yet. We're going to do some more backwards and forwards with the actual foundation members. You can have up to 8 of those, well, the P1 level. I've broken it. It's not working. You receive, so you get another share when you help R1 to do exactly the same as what R2 did. So that gives you 2 shares. P2 is you with your pair. R2 got his pair, and obviously, similarly enough, you're going to get R2B to find 2. All again, still the same 200. Gives you 1 share into the P2 pool now. So now you've got, if you would have 1 share, you get you've already got your commission, you've got your 20-cent bonus. Now you're getting your 20% binary bonus. You're going to get your 1% or your 1 share. In this instance, you're only going to get 1 share into the P1 bonus, and now you've accumulated 1 share in the P2 bonus. Also, it's 2.5% of that pool. This particular bonus is unlimited. You can have as many P2 shares as you generate. The object of this lesson is always to have your people with 2 people. It's up to you to do that. So you receive a second share for every other person you get to do the same thing. It's pretty simple. The compensation levels. Here's where it gets a little different. $200, which is what we were talking about before, triggers the compensation levels. At $200, prior to $200, you do not receive binary commission. You'll get only the trading commissions. At $200, that triggers the first of the binary levels, and that takes you through 10 levels until your asset is grown to $999 US dollars of Bitcoin. $1,000 to $499 gets you 20 levels in depth. $5,000 to $9,999 gives you 30 levels of depth. $10,000 is for the rest. Sorry? Yes. So in your back office, over here, there's a little wallet. As you are paid your commissions or your bonuses, it all goes into that wallet. That little wallet there, you have two choices. One, you can roll that money back over and grow that percentage. If you grow that percentage of the market, obviously you get paid more in the trade. The more you roll over and you save in there, you start off with your 200, roll over, save. You're making more out of the trading commissions. You get to the magical 1,000. So it's self-funding itself. It's not something that you have to keep putting money out of your pocket with. You get down to 1,000. Like some people might even join at 1,000. Be great. If you get somebody who joins at 1,000, you get $100. So someone comes in at the 1,000 and they're pumping out some decent sort of commissions out of their trading commission. They might take that money out of there, transfer it to their real wallet and go and buy some gold and silver. So if you've got assets that are coming out of a certain place, who shall remain nameless, I'm not saying that you should do this. What I'm saying is you should think about it. If you go and buy, if you split yourself into 50-50 for argument's sake, I'm just using that as a number. You put 50% and go out and buy some gold and silver, and roll 50% over into this program. It is really simple. Of all the stuff that I've looked at, that compensation plan is done by one of the founding members. Their support team is not someone employed in Uzbekistan or Latvia. All of the support staff are members of this group, unpaid members of this group. But it's in their best interest to get you sorted. Why? Because you're putting money into the collective. The more money that goes into the collective, the more money everyone makes. Another thing that I really, really liked about it, you know, they talk real language. There's no bits, bytes and bullshit. Am I allowed to say that? I hope so. I like real language. This, like that, gets you this. I'm ex-army, I can't understand that. And all the bits, bytes and bullshit, I don't understand. So real language. I only had to watch it once and I understood it. I didn't have to sit back and watch stuff 15 times, which I've done on the past, and still didn't have a clue what the bloody hell they were doing. So I was real chuffed about this. Their compensation plan, their binary plan also maxes out at a lousy $75,000 a week. So I thought that was pretty special. The only thing that a couple of things that I haven't covered, there's quite a few things that I haven't covered on there because I still want to quantify the finer details of it. I just watched their video and literally it's accessible on YouTube. Cherie, she's one of the founding members. Like I said, she talks my language and it's real simple, real easy to, the South African accent you get used to really, really quickly. We probably will. At some stage we'll make it easy. We'll upload it someplace and give you a link to where all of these things are. I've been stacking them in my thing, so I've already got them so I can re-watch them when if I have certain little questions and so on. So we'll make them available to you. There's a couple of things that don't show up on there. If you decide to become a member and you want to, for argument's sake, sign up husband, wife, daughter, son, daughter, you have to wait for that top one to become active. Otherwise, they might not necessarily show up in whichever order you're so delight. If you want to sign up Jeff, John, Paul, Mary, Greg, George, sideways, go knock yourself out. But if you're stacking people, you need to sign, and you want to sign one up underneath the other, you need to make sure that that account is paid for and active before you sign up the next step. So it's just a little thing. The other thing that we were giving some thought to is those of you who have got groups, and this is for both, we are going to attempt as best we can, if your group decides to go into these sorts of things, whether it's buying gold or silver or go into MTI, try and keep them together so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. We're going to attempt. I can't guarantee it, but we will attempt it. And I think that's me done. Yep, that's another thing that's on there. It's about a 48 hour. You put your order in. I want out. I don't want to be in this game anymore. 48 hours. Within 48 hours, one of the blokes, one of his videos that I watched, and he was quite good because, from the best I can make out, he is not a founding member. He is just an affiliate like we will be, but he's come at it from a completely different perspective, and he had a couple of oops moments while he was learning. And one of those things was he thought, well, everyone's told me that I can do this, so he actually put in an order. And what they'll say is, if you put in an order, within 48 hours, you'll have your money. His was done and signed, sealed and finished in 6 hours. But it can take 48 hours and you're out. If you so desire that I don't like this, he parts his hair different, Bitcoin is crap, I'm going to go and join Hookus Plukus coin, whatever it is, 48 hours, you can have your money and out. That was one of the things, again, that I really liked. It was an easy out. No fees for getting out. Any questions on that? The question was, is there a connection between MTI and AU4U? Absolutely none. It was just a coincidence. It was a place of, I wanted out. He wouldn't let me yell and scream until there was something for us to go to. That was his idea. I didn't like it, but that was his idea. Fortunately, I hate telling him he did good because he gets a big head, then he wants a pay rise. The good part is, in that time frame, a whole heap of stuff just literally fell into place, and this was one of them. You know, we're going to have, hopefully we're going to have all of our coins, and it's going to be able to convert it into Bitcoin. Hopefully, at what rate I don't know, but me, I'm done. I want out. I'm going to go over. I'm going to get every cent I can out of them, and I'm going to go to something like this.
Trading.
All right. Irma was just saying the growth of MTI. MTI, and there's the bloke who wrote it. He had a group of friends who got their fingers burnt trading. So he wrote a program to help them out, and that's what it was meant to do. It was about 20 or 30 of them. It was never meant to be this, but it worked so well with the 20 or 30. So in a very short space of time, they were putting people in there, and it went from a couple of thousand rand to 2 billion rand very quickly in under 12 months. Now, not real dollars. How many rand is to a real dollar? Yeah. So it's not real dollars, but it's still a chunk of brass. If you're paying bills in rand, it's a big chunk of brass. So the growth, the exponential growth in there was unbelievable. Their systems that they put up on the thing, their worst month trading was 8.46% for the month. Their best for the month was just a hair under 12%, but all the rest were around 10 and above. So so that one draw the average back down to around the 10% mark. But that was just okay. They haven't had 5 years of trading, but keep in mind during that same time frame, Bitcoin's gone through the roof, then to the basement, in the middle, back up to the roof, back down to the basement again. So they're making money on a growing market and a falling market. Again, something that really got my attention. And here's the other thing that I really, really like about it. It's just so bloody simple. You're about 5 keystrokes, not 900. But that was another thing that I jolly well liked. Sorry? No, you don't. It's just sitting again. One of the things I'm going to ask them to do is, currently what they do is they pay your earnings into the wallet and you have to decide. I'm hoping that that's not a legal requirement because I want a switch in there so I can just say automatically. I want it automatically rolled over. I want to set and forget this. I'm going to keep an eye on it, don't get me wrong. Nothing in this world is ever set and forget. That leads to disaster. But, until, if I want to go into a couple of dollars and I want that to grow to a point for me, and then I'll do some other stuff. I would recommend if you're going to join, you join with, say, 230 or 250 to allow for fluctuations. If you drop below the $200 of value in Bitcoin, it automatically cuts you out. So that's something you've got to keep an eye out, pardon me for. Yep. It's a magical figure. That 200 has to sustain itself. And obviously that's only going to be in the short term, because if you recruit someone, you're going to start making money. As soon as you start getting through a few trades, you're creating money. So it gets past the point where you have to worry about looking at it. Every Saturday, they shut the system down and they do the calculations. Normally that's back up by Sunday and everybody's been paid. Yep. So 200 US is roughly about $344. But I think it's a great stream. Whether you choose to make it a first stream, a second stream, or no stream at all, is entirely up to yourself. But I thought electronically, it's something different from gold and silver. It's the biggest, most used coin on the face of the planet. I'm not reinventing the wheel. So there's a whole herd of things I really, really liked about it. It's simplistic. The people are real easy to listen to, like their explanations, real simple. And I think I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCloskey. Oops, no, stay there. Okay, so there's been a whole lot of work gone into that. Dan's been researching the trading thing. I know, Dan, you've been playing with trading platforms. A number of people have had a go at the trading platform that our previous company was recommending. Do you make any money out of that one, Dan? Exactly. That would be negative. Dan spent weeks sitting in front of the computer trying to make it do something that they said it would do and got no outcome. With what we've got now, you just put your Bitcoin in there and away it goes and does its stuff. If you want to, you can sit and watch the trading happen live. I did for about 3 minutes and then thought, I've got to go somewhere and watch some paint drying. It's not that exhilarating if you're not involved in it. It's really ordinary. But it works, and it has worked. We've been very careful to not recommend anything till we had something that worked. I'm nervous about the way the other people are going. 4,600 euros for a program that everyone I've talked to that used it said, I can't make it profitable. Dan, question is, how long have we observed it? I think about 2 weeks at this point. We've spoken to people that have been using it anywhere up to a year and all saying the exact same thing. Put the Bitcoin in, boom, away it goes. Irma set us up with a, pardon? Year and a half, 1.5 years. Yep. I particularly liked, I saw an interview with the CEO, and we're used to watching videos of chief executives where the Rolls-Royce Silver Ghost pulls up and he gets out and, the palm fronds are waving and the music's playing. This guy's sitting in his office, got the kid's teddy bear there beside him, crap all over the desk. Yeah, this is what I do. Just ordinary. Really refreshing that he wasn't trying to sell anybody on the idea. When they questioned him about, there's been an article about MTI in the press in South Africa about them being a Forex trading Ponzi. So that's a business that trades currencies. There's a couple of problems with that. They don't trade currencies. They're in crypto. And when he in answer to the question that he was posed, he said, go and find me a single member anywhere in the world that's not been able to get their money out whenever they want. Find me one. Okay. That speaks a lot. You know, the people that are throwing rocks at him can't understand how they make that much money. Now, I know you can make that much money. Carolyn and I had a currency program years ago that arbitraged between the banks, and it made a ridiculous amount of money. Ridiculous. One afternoon, we made 14% in an hour and a half. The mistake we made was getting nervous about the fact that now we've got $1 million in the bank. Maybe we should actually get someone that knows what they're doing. Have never seen any of it ever again. So we know you can make money like this. I've seen it. You can watch it trade on their website when you log in. There's a little window you can open up and watch the trading if you want. But as I said, if you're not doing it, paint drying's more entertaining. So there's another little short video here of about 7 or 8 minutes. This is from a lady who lives in Phoenix, or actually she's in Scottsdale, which is beside Phoenix, where I used to live. I did not know her then. Maybe I should have. She's a proponent of gold and silver, physical gold and silver. She doesn't believe in digital gold and silver. She doesn't believe in holding it across the world somewhere. She wants it where she can get to it. So this is a real interesting, she's doing a question and answer, so it's really entertaining. Oh, hang on. There you go. That's from one of the girls in Melbourne. She's already a member of MTI. She's got made money out of it from day one. And I think I've been involved in it for about, in my account, for about a week. And yep, every day it's made a profit. Now they don't win every trade. It's not magic. You can see losses, but they win a lot more trades than they lose, and they've got stop losses in so the loss doesn't go stupid. Very shrewd the way they've got it set up.
I'm Lynette Zhang, and I believe that when it comes to your money, if you don't hold it, you don't own it. I'm the Chief Market Analyst here at ITM Trading, a full-service physical buy-sell gold and silver company who specializes in protecting 100% of your wealth and your assets. And so today we're going to do Q&A, and we're just going to jump right into it. Maria A. asks, besides gold and silver, how do you prepare for hyperinflation? That is a really good question, Maria, because we really need to be as independent and self-sufficient as possible. So, you know, we got a little taste in March and April what happens at the grocery store shelves. So the mantra is food, water, energy, security, barterability, wealth preservation, community, and shelter. These are the things that we all need to have a reasonable standard of living regardless of what's happening in the economy. But it is never so important as it is during a hyperinflationary event. Food becomes the single biggest issue. So if you start a little garden, if that's not something that's available to you, get some sprouting seeds and some food that holds and stays, like grains and beans make a complete protein. So you have some cans of tomatoes, some rice, and some beans. You throw that in the pot. I'm telling you, it's not bad eating. But, you know, throw some sprouting seeds like broccoli seeds are super nutritious. You rinse them off for 3 days, you have some live food to add with it. So, you know, food, and then the water. You want to make sure that you can drink. I mean, we can't live without food and water. So there are all different ways that you can do it, and ways to hold water. For me, I've done the water holding in ponds, and then I have a Berkey filter to filter it so that it's drinkable, but it doesn't have any chemicals in it. So you want to look at that mantra and see, where are my holes? And then you start to fill those holes. Most people can't do everything all at once. So you want to just work on this area where you feel the biggest hole. Like, for example, when I bought my current house, the back door, I felt really vulnerable in the back door. So one of the very first things I did was put in a security gate in that back door. Then I felt, well, okay, now I can move on and I can put in some gardens or work on the water or some of those other things. So here's the mantra again, and I'll do it slowly so you can write it down. Food, water, energy, security, barterability, wealth preservation, community, and shelter. Where do you feel vulnerable? Do a little bit in that area, move on to the next area, move on to the next area, move on to the next area. That's what you need to do to prepare for hyperinflation and hyperdeflation, and where we are right now. It's certainly the reset. And Canyon Amorous 3 asks, how does gold protect you from deflation? Okay, well, deflation are the markets imploding. So gold, real physical money gold, is actually real money, and it protects you from deflation because it is a true flight to safety asset. So deflation is when prices go down. So a stock market imploding or a bond market imploding is deflationary. A real estate market imploding is all deflationary. And then there is that flight to safety. But additionally, and I'll show you this tomorrow, it's on one of the slides, what you know is that regardless of what's going on, there is the broad base of demand for physical gold and physical silver, both of them. Whether it's in manufacturing, it's in the financial markets, real money, central banks accumulating gold is real money, food, jewelry, etc. So it is used across the entire global economy, and there is always demand. Sometimes less, sometimes more, but there's always demand. So that's how it protects you. And I've shown you graphs, and Megan, maybe we can pull that graph of how gold and silver performed during both deflation as well as inflation. But that is a true flight to safety, and that's what you need during these periods of time. You need safety. And Kelwarn 4 asks, what's to stop the Fed pumping the gold price down, so I think you mean pushing the gold price down, while buying out all the physical at the other end, which is exactly what they've been doing, to use as the reserve value for their digital dollar, which is also what they are likely to do. Whatever the new currency is on the other end, the digital dollar, they will most likely, I'm presuming that history repeats itself because it always does. And when people are beaten and bloodied and bruised and battered, then they need a component of gold in the currency to get people to trust it again. So there's really, the only thing that might be is the cost to mine gold, because there are real costs in terms of labor and energy. And don't hold me to this because obviously I don't have the data right in front of me, but I think it's somewhere around $1,000, $1,100 to a cost to mine an ounce of gold. So in many ways, there's nothing really to stop the Fed or any of the banks from suppressing the real value of gold. They've been doing it since 1913 and probably before that as well. However, you have to understand that in a reset circumstance, and we are going into a new currency, this should be pretty apparent to everybody now, that the entire global system, whether it's social or political or economic or financial, the entire system is resetting. We're going into a new system. And so when we do finally reset the value of the dollar to go into that new system, then governments do it against physical gold, monetary physical gold. So when it benefits them for gold to express to its true fundamental value, that is when it will happen. That is what we are really waiting for. The markets can certainly drive it higher. I mean, we're staying, you know, nicely above that range. I can show you that maybe on Thursday. I'll pull up a smaller chart on gold so you can see where it's just testing support levels and all of that. But it's already concluded the cup. That piece is finished, right? Now we're going on to new highs. So that's on the spot price, which is easy and cheap to manipulate. But what might stop it is the cost to mine gold. But what really is going to stop it, what really is going to bring it to its fundamental value, is the ultimate reset, the overnight reset of the fiat monies against gold. And Joyce Koch asks, according to the Wellington letter, the Fed decreased the money supply over the last 30 days. If the Fed wants to increase inflation, why was the money supply constricted in August? Very good question. And what the Fed is trying to do is back up to give themselves some ramp room. What they did was they front-loaded the QE, and now they're testing it because you've also seen unemployment. I mean, there's all sorts of things around the unemployment numbers, but they're coming in a bit better than they needed to. However, the Fed has promised more QE. If you go into, you could just search FRED, F-R-E-D, and M1 supply, or which is the base money supply, currency in circulation, things like that, and the M2 supply, which takes into account savings account, checking account, and that kind of thing, you will see a slight dip in the month of August, but it's kind of minuscule. We're still up at nosebleed levels, and the most likely outcome, especially if this is bigger than just a little correction in the markets, which have now been down 3 days in a row, you will see the Fed has come out and said, don't worry, we're going to do more QE, more stimulus. So the Fed is just trying to buy a little ramp room as far as I can see, but the decline is not very substantial. And we'll see what that looks like. And Valerie B asks, Lynette, if the stock market crashes, do you think the gold mining stocks will crash also? You know, it's funny that you asked me that this morning because I actually pulled up GDX, which is the gold miners index. And, you know, maybe I'll show you this on Thursday, because I've already basically done my work for tomorrow, which not real happy about bringing the one to you tomorrow, but a really important one for you to see. However, you will notice, I'll show you that on Thursday. I'll do, Megan, can you write that down so I don't forget? Yep. I'll do all of the different ways that you can buy gold, including the gold mining stocks. But yeah, the gold mining stocks are not really gold. Gold is a different beast. That is a company. They have debts. They make management choices, et cetera, et cetera. It's not really the physical gold. And what you'll see, because I just looked at it this morning, funny enough, was that even though we've seen gold conclude its cup formation, the gold mining stocks have not. So they are a stock, and while they have run up, it's still a stock. It's not physical gold. But I'll show you that on Thursday. So that is it for today. Now, last week I was on with Victoria at IGTV. I don't think we have that link yet, but Megan will get it and post it on the socials this week. And you know, I had such a good time the last time. I know this is going to be as good or maybe even better. We have so much to talk about. I'll be on Silver Bullion TV with Patrick Vieira, and I'm really looking forward to that. That's tomorrow, isn't it?
Yes, Wednesday. I'm
That's-
like off a day from the holiday.
I know the holiday has
Tomorrow.
everybody, but I'm doing that tomorrow. He usually gets those out pretty quick, so we'll see. And then next week, I'm going to be on Jason Hartman, and he's really mostly into real estate. And there's lots of things to talk about with real estate and these bifurcated markets. It's crazy. So if you have any questions about this or anything else, just send them in to questions@itmtrading.com. And also make sure you'll find all of the links and the images and the blogs that I write in our blog post, itmtrading.com/blog. Of course, this will also be posted on Brighteon as well as Facebook. And, you know, there is no doubt. There is absolutely no doubt. I cannot tell you at this moment if what is happening in the stock market is the big one. I'm guessing that it's just to make sure that the Fed pushes through on their promise for unlimited QE and unlimited buying of everything. But do not be fooled by this fool's rally. It is designed to keep you inside of the system, whereas physical gold and physical silver in your possession is outside of the system. That is a diversified portfolio. And without any doubt at all, it is time to cover your assets. And you do that with the Wealth Shield, which is made up of physical gold and physical silver in your possession, but it also encompasses the whole strategy. So until tomorrow, please be safe out there.
She is a character, isn't she? One of the first videos of hers that I saw, she was doing a question and answer like that, and someone wrote in and said, if gold is so good, why does my financial planner tell me that I only need 5 to 10% in gold? And she looked straight at the camera and said, well, that's because he's an idiot. Classic. So, look, we hope we've given you some information today. We've got some little forms here. If you're interested in the AU4U plan, we will email these out as well, just so that we make sure that people get connected to the right people when we transfer them into the new system. That's all. Jan's going to hand them out. There you go. Has anybody got any other questions from what we've done today? Walt? Yep. No, don't panic. It was one of the things that we set out to do. We all know we've got assets in carat bit. And that's what we set out to do, was find a way we could tap into those assets, move it into something that we can make money with. So we are going to run some pools for people that are a little bit limited technically, so that they can put their assets into a pool, and we'll run that. We'll make sure that that sits inside our team somewhere, and we can register some other people under the pool. That way everyone gets an advantage of the multiple income streams. Any other questions on that? So we've had weeks of staring at trading programs. Dan has been up late at night, this Dan, observing things, and he's a really good crash test dummy because he's not real good on a computer. If he can make MTI work, anybody can. Yep. So we spent many, many hours looking at the other program that was being promoted by the last company we were associated with, and just could not make it work as described. Sounded great on paper, looked fantastic. We all wanted it to be as we hoped it would be, just cannot make it work. Cannot. This one, register, drop your Bitcoin there, done. Go on holidays for a week. So we'll get that all sorted for you. As a result of what we've gone through in the last few months, I was looking for a video to end with today, and I found a really good one that is a series of quotes from someone who you'll recognise, but they are pertinent to what we've gone through with moving our assets, finding we need to have a different program. But here's the outcome.
I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears, and sweat. We have before us an ordeal of the most grievous kind. We have before us many, many long months of struggle and of suffering. You ask, what is our policy? I will say it is to wage war by sea, land, and air, with all our might, with all the strength that God can give us, to wage war against a monstrous tyranny never surpassed in the dark and lamentable catalogue of human crime. That is our policy. You ask, what is our aim? I can answer in one word: victory. Victory at all costs. Victory in spite of all terror. Victory however long and hard the road may be. For without victory there is no survival.
Now we are the masters of our fate. That the task which has been set us is not above our strength. That its pangs and toils are not beyond our endurance. As long as we have faith in our cause and an unconquerable willpower, salvation will not be denied us.
Hitler knows that he will have to break us in this island or lose the war. Let us, therefore, brace ourselves to our duties, and so bear ourselves that if the British Empire and its Commonwealth last for 1,000 years, men will still say, this was their finest hour. Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few. We shall fight in France. We shall fight on the seas and oceans. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender. Never give in. Never, never, never. In nothing, great or small, large or petty, never give in except to convictions of honor and good sense. Never yield to force. Never yield to the apparently overwhelming might of the enemy. We stood all alone a year ago, and to many countries it seemed that our account was closed. We were finished. All this tradition of ours, our school history, our songs, this part of the history of our country, all were gone and finished and liquidated. Very different is the mood today. Britain, other nations thought, had drawn a sponge across her slate. But instead, our country stood in the gap. There was no flinching, no thought of giving in. And by what seemed almost a miracle to those outside these islands, though we ourselves never doubted it, we now find ourselves in a position where I say we can be sure that we have only to persevere to conquer.
Interesting quotes, aren't they? I can tell you in the last few months there's been days when I felt like that. The one thing that I was determined about was I don't care that something's gone wrong. What I care about is how you treat our people. And that's been pretty ordinary. So, ladies and gentlemen, we hope we've given you the roadmap with some sort of indication of where we're going. I'm really happy with what we've got. I'm really happy that we have it here, not over there. When something goes wrong, I can drive there in 40 minutes and fix it. unlike the, as Carolyn said, called Germany 10, 15 times in a row and it just hangs up. If I was close enough, I'd be driving there. So, give it some thought. We're not suggesting you have to go down this road. It's a road we found. It's a road map we found with an outcome. What we're suggesting is you think about it and make your decision wisely. As per one of those quotes, I was being very nice about our transition until somebody, who shall remain nameless, called me and threatened me. I'm not going to be nice about it anymore. It's the one thing I do not take to kindly. So, till we meet again, we'll see you on the golden beaches of the world. Travel safe and enjoy your trip home. Thank you for coming.